The Sooners and Cowboys are cooking at 2-0 heading into non-conference games this weekend, and a big reason why are some red-hot wide receivers. Hi, I'm Mike Kaler, and those are just some of the topics we'll tackle today on the latest edition of the Bedlam Nation Conversation presented by Dodge. Joining me as always are OU beat writer Jake Trotter and OSU beat writer Scott Wright. Last week, OU and OSU both hung half 100 on their opponents. OU beat up on Cincinnati, which was supposed to put up a fight, while OSU got a scare before rolling over Houston. Let's start with OU this week. Jake, first you've got to talk about Ryan Broyles. He redshirted last year. He missed the first game of this season after getting into some trouble. Then he had a great debut last week against Cincinnati. How does he mix up the offense now with showing that he's a good option for them?
Well, he makes that 5 wide receiver set they ran off it against Cincinnati more potent because he can line up in the slot, and you have to account for him as he proved against Cincinnati. What he does, I think he takes Quentin Chaney's spot in the depth chart as far as wide receivers go, especially when they go to 4 and 5 wide sets. So he's just another playmaker they have as if they needed another one. Let's
talk a little bit about that game last week. You know, this is supposed to be a decent opponent for OU, and then, you know, they really started to roll in the second half. What happened there to really put them ahead, and is that something that they could do again Saturday against Washington?
Well, they made the right halftime adjustments in the secondary and the defensive backfield. They really shut down Cincinnati's passing game in the second half. But Cincinnati put up a fight. I mean, this is a 28-20 ball game. Midway through the third quarter after Gilliard took the kickoff for return for a touchdown. So I think Cincinnati is going to prove to be a very quality win for Oklahoma at the end of the season. So I thought it was a nice performance, especially by the defense in the second half.
Should we see something similar against Washington? Maybe not as good as Cincinnati, or kind of a mid-level BCS team. What do you see happening there?
Well, I think if Cincinnati had a healthy quarterback and they played Washington on a neutral field, they'd probably win by 30. So this is not the same opponent, but you're going on the road, and that's where the X factor is. I mean, OU should beat Iowa State, you would think, by 40 points, but last year they won just 17-7. OU clearly was a better team than Colorado last year, but lost on the road. So there's some factors, crowd noise, mixing up your routine that can account for poor play, and we saw that last year with the Sooners.
Alrighty, thanks, Jake. We'll be right back to talk about OSU football after this word from Dodge. And we're back with the Bedlam Nation Conversation. Right now we're going to talk to Scott Wright about OSU football. Scott, you kind of had a similar situation to Jake last week, the emergence of a star receiver. Dez Bryant has a great game against Houston. What is his impact on the OSU offense? Does he become the number one option to go to, or does he have to become the option to go to?
Well, really, it sort of feels like he's the number one option, but really this is a team that runs first to set up that pass. If Kendall Hunter hadn't had the success that he was having and running through the big holes, the offensive line was opening up, they wouldn't have got those one-on-one opportunities with Dez Bryant, and that's what they really took advantage of. Was they didn't try to force anything to Dez. They basically ran the ball, or they would throw to Pettigrew over the middle until they got that one-on-one opportunity, and then you'd see them go deep and have the big strike. Or throw that little screen pass that he took 74 yards for a touchdown when Damian Davis knocked down 2 guys along the way. So that's really what it becomes. He's their best playmaker on this offense, and they do what they have to do to get him in those opportunities where they can get him the ball. But it all starts with the running game for this team right now.
They showed the ability to put up a big number. Just that third quarter last week against Houston to kind of break that game up. And they're playing Missouri State this week, not a very good 1AA team. How big of a number could that be? Where do you think Gundy will start calling off the dogs a little bit?
Well, it'll be interesting to see, because this is really, he hasn't taken the opportunity to get either of his backup quarterbacks in a game yet. So I'm assuming that he'll want to do that at some point this week, maybe even get them both some snaps, both Brandon Weeden and Alex Cate. So we'll see. I'm assuming if he wants to get one of those guys in, or both of them, he's going to want to run in a little bit of the offense. He doesn't want them going in there and handing off to Bo Johnson, 5 times a piece. So we'll see if he tries to kind of stretch things out and get those guys some valuable time. Getting in there and throwing the ball around a little bit before it gets too far out of hand. But the way the offense has been going, it could get out of hand really quickly.
Is this another case like OU against Chattanooga, where it can be 50-0 at halftime, and then you're just kind of killing the clock for the whole second half?
I think that potential is there. The way Oklahoma State's offense was working against Houston in the second half, they're not going to see that kind of a fight from Missouri State. No disrespect to the Bears, but they'll virtually be able to score at will on this team with all the playmakers that they have. Not just Bryant, Pettigrew, Kendall Hunter, Zach Robinson hasn't really been asked to do much of anything. He put up some big passing numbers, but a lot of that was because Des Bryant, you just toss him the ball and let him do his thing. So, we haven't seen him get out in the run game or anything like that yet. So, with the playmakers that Oklahoma State has, this could get ugly quick.
Alrighty, thanks, Scott. We'll be back with Hot Topics right after this word from Doc. And we're back on the Bedlam Nation conversation. This week we're going to talk about a hot topic. Excessive celebration penalties are in the spotlight. Last week cost Washington a chance to tie against BYU. OSU got one called on them. Guys, are the refs being too sensitive? Are they pulling the trigger too fast? Jake, what do you think?
Well, I don't think necessarily overall they're being too sensitive. I think that Oklahoma actually got one as well, and they deserved it. There was excessive celebration. Now, I think you have to, as Ty Willingham said, you have to use some discretion and take a look at where we are in the game. And I think at the end with Jake Locker, to take the game out of the players' hands and put it in officials' hands, I don't think anybody wants that. So, and his wasn't really a taunting or excessive celebration. He threw the ball up, but it wasn't like he was anything that you could flag on sportsmanlike, in my opinion, for. So I think it's okay to call it in the middle of the game, but I think you have to use some discretion about when to call it.
Yeah, one of the things Sam Bradford said the other day was that they were looking at video, and Kevin Wilson said you could have been called for this one, you could have been called for this one. Scott, is it a case where, if you were really calling it tight, you could do it almost every time?
Yeah, I really think that there are a lot of instances where they could call it if they wanted to. The penalty that Des Bryant got was, it wasn't high-stepping, but he was kind of doing an awkward little run into the end zone on one of his touchdowns. And he did it at least twice during the game, but he only got flagged for it once. An interesting note from Stillwater on this: they actually practiced celebration. It didn't work out last week for them. They got the penalty anyway. But as Andrea Cohen is going to write in Thursday's paper, it's something that they practice so that they can try to avoid these things. For the original question, are the refs being too sensitive? I don't think that's the case. I think they're trying to enforce the rule. I think the NCAA, though, is being a little too sensitive with the development of this rule.
Does OSU need to bring Barry Sanders in and just teach hand the referee the ball deal and all this stuff?
Yeah.
Does this make the game less fun, too? Is it a case of NFL no fun league, it's trickling down to the NCAA?
No, well, maybe a little bit. But I think at the same time, I think it sets a good example as well. Again, I said before, if you call it and there's unsportsmanlike conduct and there's taunting, you got to call it. But if there's, like what Devery Henderson did with the Saints where he was showing the ball up, you got to call that in college. But you can't let it affect the game and be so ticky-tack that you're causing the outcome of wins and losses. You're changing the outcome of wins and losses. I don't agree with that.
A lot was made of Locker's play because of the crucial situation. What Des Bryant did was probably even less offensive, I guess you would say, than what Locker did. The way that he went in, it wasn't something that was real deliberate to draw attention to himself. So I think that the judgment call nature of this penalty is something that will be interesting to watch.
Yeah, we don't have guys putting with the yard marker or anything yet. So, all right, guys, thanks. We'll wrap it up with predictions right after this word from Doug. All right, final segment of the Bedlam Nation conversation, this time predictions. But before we get to OU and OSU, how about we do Ohio State versus USC? That'll have a big impact on the top of the rankings. What do you say, Jay?
USC 28, Ohio State 21. Beanie Wells is going to play. Ohio State, nobody's giving them any chance. They're going to make this game competitive, but I think in the end, USC is going to be too much.
Scott?
USC is going to be way too much. I'm saying at least a 21-point spread. I'm saying 35-14.
More of that Ohio coming back for Jake.
You give me 21 points, we'll play after.
Okay, let's talk about your games you guys have this weekend. Jake, we'll start with you. OU at Washington, a road game against a BCS school never been the easiest thing for Bob Stoops' teams to pull off. What do you say?
Again, I don't remember what I picked in the papers, so it's probably going to be different. But I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of like 44 to 21, 44 to 17 in that range. But I think it might be a little bit close in the first half, like we saw with Cincinnati. But I think OU pulls away.
All right, Scott. Somewhere under triple digits. What do you say?
When you're vague, you end up being right.
OSU at home against Missouri State. Missouri State coming off a critical loss at home to D2 Washburn. I can say it because they're my embarrassing alma mater. What do you say for the Bears versus Cowboys?
Really, it ends up being whatever Oklahoma State wants it to be, but I'm going to say 63-12. I'm giving the Bears 12 because I really like King Jack Washington as a running back, the Owasso kid. He's a good running back.
Alrighty, that wraps it up for another edition of Bedlam Nation Conversation presented by Dodge. We'll be back next week to assess the teams during their bye week. Until then, follow all the news on OU and OSU football with the best coverage team in the state at newsok.com, newsok.tv, and every day in the Oklahoma.